What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back, delivering another MMA superstar. This time we get to talk to Vanessa Demopoulos, who's going to be facing Jinh Yu Frey on June 25th at an upcoming UFC Fight Night here in Las Vegas. Welcome, little monster. How are you?
What's happening, you guys? Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. Happy to have you. And like Goes said pre-show, your contributions to our watch-alongs on the UFC pay-per-views have been well received. We thank you for your fight breakdowns. So again, very, very appreciative.
Of course, they were successful breakdowns.
Yeah, they were.
Carla ended up winning the championship belt.
It's funny because sometimes you can nail the fight the way you think it's going to go. You'll just get the winner and the loser wrong. And sometimes you can get the winner right, but you in no way laid it out the way they want it. You know what I mean?
Right.
MMA is like the weirdest game in that regard.
Yeah, well, I mean, because all of us have to be like a literal specialist in 5 different sports just to do the one sport. So you may think you know which way it's going to unfold, but truly, like, we're all training all of the sports all the time. So anything can happen.
Yeah, I probably did a few hits before the fight that we just had with Namajunas and Esparza, and they've had their fair share of criticism. I don't want to pile on, but I think it's a perfect example for what we're talking about here. If somebody would have told me, hey, we got 15 seconds left, what happens in the co-main event? I would have probably said, if it hits the ground, Esparza all day. If it stays on the feet, Namajunas is going to tune her up. And boy, could I have been more wrong. You know what I mean? Because the fight did stand. They did stand most of the time, but not much tuning up happened. So if you think about it, that radio show may not welcome me back. That's the whole bizarre thing about when, we do go out there and try and predict what's going to happen. We really sometimes have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, who would have thought that Carla probably landed more shots than Rose did, and then Rose taking Carla down in the last 10 seconds of the fight. Right. Yeah. No one could have predicted any of that.
Now, that said, there's also a lot to be said for film study, game planning. How much of that do you do versus your coaches do for you, and then you blend it together? Because I know some fighters want nothing to do with it. Others are right there every second along the way.
Yeah, I think that, like, younger in my career, I had no interest in watching film, because it was like, man, like, everyone's still developing so rapidly. But now at this stage of the game, we're the highest of level of professionals. Like, you have to do all of your homework. And I mean, that's what's most important. If you're not doing the homework on the in-between of the training and developing, then what are you doing? So I like doing my own film study on top of getting my coach's inputs, on top of making notes and asking them, like, hey, can you look this over with me so that we can go over this together? And I study myself as well. I look at my own films as well and see things that I need to improve, and how would I fight me, so.
That's not a bad idea. I need to start incorporating that more and asking fighters that's a very good thought process, breaking yourself down. Where would I exploit me?
Yeah, I can control what I can control. I can control the type of trainings that I'm doing and the ways that I'm improving. So it's good to kind of have like a highlight of what you get to look forward to in the cage from someone else. But I think, like, for me, the most important things are, what am I doing to improve my own game?
Mm-hmm. You fought in front of crowds, and this one again will be, I don't want to say no crowd, because in the Apex they do allow some fans, but nowhere near the stadium feel. What do you care? Do you prefer one? Well, that's probably a dumb question. I'm sure you prefer the stadiums or arenas over that, but is it a big deal, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, not all fighters prefer stadiums, but I am that fighter. Like, I love the crowd. Like, I love the energy. I'm an entertainer at heart, like, I'm an artist. Like, I want to be in front of people and doing things, but also I understand that there's millions of people that are watching on the other side of those cameras, even inside such a secluded space like the Apex. So there's still the fans. They're still there. They're still with me. They're just on the other side of the camera.
Vanessa, you talked about where you were mentally, emotionally before your last fight. things are different now. You're a full-time fighter. You got that bonus last time. Where do you feel like you're at now? What's the difference in your mentality?
I sleep better at night. So that's one of like the biggest changes. Getting to be a full-time fighter, getting to really like live my dreams fully, and being able to just like focus 1,000% effort, funneling all of my energy into the correct places, like that's life changing. That's game changing for me. There's nothing I enjoy more than just being able to go out there into the trainings and just have fun and be myself and focus on my growth and just like focus on being present in those moments versus like, man, I have to conserve some of this energy because I have to go to work later on, or I have to do all these other 50 million different things. Like I get to be 1,000% in these moments, and that has been such a game changer for me, to be able to just be fully immersed.
I heard you're very goal orientated and that you write things down, things that you want. Um, Tell us about balancing short-term goals versus long-term goals. I know a lot of fighters say they want to focus on what's in front of them, but come on, it's human nature to look ahead of things that you want. How do you balance those short-term goals and long-term goals?
I don't balance the short-term goals the way that I balance the long-term goals. So for me, I reverse engineer my life. I've known what I want to do, like when I'm 60 years old, back like when I was 25. So I had like a huge spreadsheet, and I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do later in life. This is what I need to do now to get to these goals, and this is how everything is incorporated. And it's like it's been so beautiful to like watch things unfold. The timelines have never meshed up, like it's always going to take you longer to get to the things that you think are only going to take like a year. But eventually, as long as like you stay the course, like, and understand what it is that you're looking forward to, why you're looking forward to it, I think that it's really important to go after your long-term goals with the short-term goals. Like they correlate, like they're totally like one makes the other one happen.
This is a very tough sport. And we've talked to fighters before, and they talk about certain times in their lives where they came close to maybe doing something else or just calling it a wraps on the career. Can you share a moment? Did you ever come close to maybe giving up on mixed martial arts, doing something else? And was there anybody in your life that gave you good advice and solid advice that keeps you grounded?
There was only one time, and this was back when I was like a blue belt in jujitsu, and fuck, I suffered like a weird foot injury paddleboarding. I know, one of like the most gentle sports on the planet, but this injury like totally brought me back to reality where I was like, oh my gosh, like all I had at that time was being a dancer and working on my feet and being an athlete, like as a dancer, and then also being a fighter. Like that's all I had. And I wasn't making money as a fighter back then. So I was like, wow, you need to take a step back and you need to develop your life a little bit. And so I did that. I quit fighting for 8 months, and it was so tough emotionally for me. And I remember like hearing one of my mentors, they really got like eye to eye with me. And they were like, you're not going to be successful in life until you find the thing that makes you cry when you think about not doing it. And I think for him, he thought that was going to be like some sort of like big business moment for me. Cause at the time I was reading a lot of books and developing myself mentally. And the only thing I could think of was fighting. Like every time I thought about fighting, I had to delete my social medias because every time I thought about fighting, I would get like heartbroken all over again. It almost makes me emotional to talk about it now. And so I remember like a coach had called me one time. He's like, hey, are you still doing jujitsu? And I was like, no. And he's like, all right, bye, click. I was like, whoa. I called him back and broke down. I hopped on a plane the very next day. At the time I was like living in Florida. I flew back to Ohio. I started training again, and it's been like full go ever since then. But that was like a really big moment for me. Him saying, you won't be successful until you do the thing that makes you cry. And then knowing that that was fighting for me. So I knew from that day forward, like fighting is what I want to do. Like that's it.
That's awesome. Well, you have this big fight coming up, and I know you can't reveal your strategy, but really, like, how do you see when they raise your hand up? How do you see this fight playing out?
Yes, that is something that I don't share in interviews, but I do see these glorious moments unfolding. And it's only because of all the hard work that I do for myself physically, mentally, emotionally, all the work that the coaches are putting in with me, and just knowing that I'm there every day doing everything that needs to be done to be successful in this fight.
Well, I can imagine the film study's already taken place, and you know, how many hours would you say you spend on that? Is this, can you say like a good solid 5 hours, or in 30 minutes can you dissect? Okay, this is the direction I need to go in versus my opponent.
Oh yeah, and there's initial dissections and then there's the deep dives. So I would say probably like overall at the beginning of camps, it takes me about like 5 to 10 hours of solid study, and then I'm like, all right, like time to do the work. Like we do all the monitors and stuff now, being a part of like the UFC. But at the end of the day, what got us here was just like putting your nose to that grindstone and just fucking getting after it. Like sports science is cool, but also it's the hard work that got us to being able to study the part of the sports science, and that's what I'm good at. I'm good at being a gritty fighter. I'm good at getting down there and working my freaking ass off. Like, I know what that feels like, and I know how to do that successfully. So it's about adding all of the other like details to all the grit and to all of the hard work that's being done.
I wanted to ask you, like Goes mentioned, you did bank 50 G's in your last fight. And there would have been about a 6-week turnaround, but was Columbus ever on the table? Is that something that you wanted at all? Or, did you just, were you okay with the way things unfolded and you're going January and now fighting in June?
Yeah, I wanted Columbus for a minute there, but I'm really glad that it didn't happen. I know that things are as they're supposed to be. I'm really happy to be able to have like a full camp, because like I'm just like always like ready to jump in there and get after it. And sometimes this is why I have coaches to be able to check me a little bit, like, hey, girl, like. We did good, but let's work on some things. Let's develop on the in between. And I'm like, all right, thank you. Okay. All right, I'll calm down, I'll relax, So that's important too. And that's the reason why I'm going to continue to climb through the ranks properly, is because I do have the right coaches that tell me the things I need to hear, not just the things I want to hear.
You strike me as somebody who can be very emotional and very like, let's get to it, maybe even spontaneous, if you will. But then at the same time, if somebody gives you the right data, you're cerebral enough to say, okay, take a deep breath here, and then you come with sound decisions, which I think is awesome when you're handling a career like this, because this is a type of career where, look, not to say a 2-week, 3-week, 4-week, 5-week gamble has never paid off. Of course it has. But at the same time, I'd say most of the time it probably doesn't.
Yeah, no, you pinned me right on the head. Like, I'm all gas, no brakes. I'm extremely like I'm really emotional, like I make decisions really, really fast. But I like to say I'm more of like a freaking Ferrari, with like this like crazy engine that goes like a million miles an hour. But that's why I let my coaches be behind the wheel, and they need to steer me. They need to hit the brakes sometimes, and then they can tell me when to hit the gas. Like, I am the car, I am the vehicle, but they get to steer the vehicle. And I love giving up the reins to other people because, I've lived a lot of life, and I haven't always done it the right way. So I've had to learn to like sit back and allow people who have your best interest in mind kind of help you steer the ship a little bit.
Did you treat yourself to anything special that you can share with us with that 50 G's, or did it all go in the bank?
Most of it just went in the bank, but I definitely like to have fun. So we went to Cancun. As soon as that was over, like I went out, I was partying a little bit, having fun. with my best friend a lot. And yeah, just like living my best life and enjoying things. But for the most part, you know, I try to live a healthy lifestyle, even on the in between, because being an athlete is what's most important to me. You know, I've lived a full life of partying, especially being an entertainer. Like every single weekend was a party for me. So, you know, I'm okay with just like settling down and fighting and loving getting to live this type of lifestyle.
Do you find that a lot of people that know you from your previous career still follow and cheer for you the same way other fighters that have had other careers have that same type of following?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've gotten nothing but love from my previous lifestyle, you know, my previous career. Like anyone who was in my life before I retired is like kind of still there, you know, and in such a positive light. Like, even when I was an entertainer, you know, I mean, I literally wrote a book called Stripper Bible, and it was to help girls get through the industry while keeping their morals and values, you know? So, like, I had my head on just amongst all of the craziness that was happening. So, yeah, it's been really cool to see all of the encouragement, being able to do the thing that everyone's known that I love doing the most. And I think that's what's really important in life is just like loving what you do and having the right people around you that are encouraging on your journey.
Hmm. And the last thing I wanted to say was your record really jumps out at me because you've almost probably fought tougher competition outside of the UFC than in the UFC, but prior to them also becoming better fighters like you. So, for example, Cheyenne Velismas, Caitlin Chukagian, and Lupe Godinez, you know, like a lot of you are blowing up at the same time, but some of you have met on other circuits.
Yeah, I fought Caitlin and Cheyenne when we were still amateurs, you know. So, um, Caitlin was probably the first fight where I like was unrecognizable at the end of it, and that's not the last time that had happened, but unfortunately for me. And yeah, I think that like developing outside of the UFC and then getting to get to the UFC and knowing like fuck, I am battle tested, you know, like there is nothing that you're going to do to make me quit. Like I know myself inside the cage, I know what type of warrior I am, and the world should know what type of warrior I am. And I love that sometimes I still end up being underrated. It's like, okay, whatever. Like, let's go. You know, like I've been here a million times before I ever got to walk into the UFC cage. And it took me a long time to get to the UFC. But now that I'm here, you better believe not only am I developed as a warrior, but now I'm also developed mentally and spiritually. Like, forget about it. Like, it's go time.
I love it. And this might be a year you can actually fight 3, possibly even 4 times if things get mapped out right, depending on the results, depending on, I imagine, how many more Cancun trips you might have up your sleeve. But so far, so good. You've had a great year, and it's been great getting to know you through the breakdowns and now getting to know you in person. You really strike me as someone that I think a lot of fans are going to be drawn to quickly, and or they already are, and it's going to continue. You know, like I say, you just come off really well. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much, man. Like I love this, you know, I love fighting and I love getting to share fighting with the world. I think that it's amazing, you know, and I get to be myself and I love that everybody loves this passion with me. So this is really, really cool for me. It's really exciting for me to be able to get to do interviews with guys like you. So
Well,
thank you.
And I want to be specific too. It's your passion that jumps out because a lot of fighters are in the same position as you are, like they're prize fighters and everything. But sometimes I don't know that they're appreciating the ride they're on. You know, it's kind of, I know it's supposed to be your job, but I think it's supposed to be fun too. And when it stops being fun, it almost becomes too stressful, where a lot of people really leave the industry, the sport, real bitter, you know, and they didn't get as much out of it as they thought, you know, because it, like Go said, it's a really, really hard sport. It can chew a lot of people up and spit them out. But at the same time, I guess if you look at it from a certain viewpoint, I think you can just enjoy the ride and make the most of the opportunity, and hopefully it takes you all the way, right? You make a lot of money and do what some people have been able to pull off.
Oh yeah. Well, and that was actually something that I had considered, knowing that this industry is very unforgiving. you know, and those are things that were on the table for me when even considering being a full-time MMA fighter. So obviously, like, I mean, not obviously, but I do have a lot of other life options, you know, and I choose this life because this is what I am passionate about. This is what I know that I want to do. But also I've weighed out the options and I understood that about fighting, you know, like it's unforgiving, you know, fighting doesn't love you back. You love it. It's a very one-sided relationship and I'm here for it, you know, so yeah.
Fighting does not love you back. It does not ask you how you're doing or anything like that. Yeah, good one. I like it. All right, Vanessa. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate the time today. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck with the rest of your camp for Jinh Yu Frey.
Thank you. Be amazing, you guys. Have an awesome day.